Today, I'm about to sign an executive order that directs key federal agencies to protect our communities from those hateful attacks and advance equality for families.
I wonder what the White House response is to that, given that the president's about to set up his pride credentials in the next event.
And we are trying to beef up our defense capabilities to face a situation that China may launch war against Taiwan.
We've got a lot to get to today. The president yesterday made a speech about Pride Month, signed an executive order, which that's a whole other interesting thing that I think we need to talk about now. How many executive orders he's signed. But talking about Pride Month, all while trying to do business with Saudi Arabia, China could potentially be attacking Taiwan. The President Xi of China, dictator Xi of China, has set up a military intervention, non-war military intervention, same way Putin did with Ukraine. Border numbers are at an all-time high. I thought they couldn't go higher. They're proving us wrong every single day. And a story out of Southern California that I think you all need to hear in case the woke DAs come to where you are. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually their name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. On today, it is June 16th, the year of our Lord 2022. Thanks so much for tuning in. Got a lot to get to, so we're going to start right off the bat here. President Biden yesterday pandered to the LGBTQLI, which is not the correct acronym, but he did say that. I didn't bring that clip up there because I know people slip up and I don't want to make that the story. President Biden gave a speech yesterday and signed an executive order regarding the LGBTQ IA plus community. I don't actually know what all of the acronyms are myself, which I feel like does a disservice to. If you're part of that community, I would try to condense the acronym a little bit because then people get confused. And anyways, President Biden gave a speech pandering yesterday to Pride Month, in which he also instituted an executive order. Now, I'm going to play what he said, then I'm going to read what's in the executive order, but then there's also another component of this of how many executive orders he has done, which is a lot. Let me play this, and then we'll get to all of that. Here's President Biden pandering to the LGBTQLI community.
I don't have to tell you about the ultra-MAGA agenda attacking families and our freedoms. 300 discriminatory bills introduced in states across this country. In Texas, knocking on front doors to harass and investigate parents who are raising transgender children. Today, I'm about to sign an executive order that directs key federal agencies to protect our communities from those hateful attacks and advance equality for families. My order will use the full force of the federal government to prevent inhumane practices of conversion therapy. The executive order will also support mental health for children by addressing bullying and suicide and making our schools safer. Addressing the nation's mental health crisis is a key pillar of the unity agenda I announced in the State of the Union address. Also support older adults so they can age with dignity.
So I wanted to keep that last part in there because I'm confused by that just as much. So Biden basically is issuing a feel-good, happy-go-lucky executive order that's going to direct the federal government to do, I don't know, whatever he thinks that it's going to do. This is from Time Magazine, and I wanted to pull this from Time Magazine, not a right-leaning news organization by any means, so we can all kind of see what's happening here. In our article regarding the executive order for the LGBTQLI, as he would say, or IA plus 2 group, Joe Biden is apparently, according to Time Magazine, going to create a federal working group to help combat LGBTQ homelessness, and one promoting educational policies for states and schools districts to encourage inclusive learning environments for the LGBTQ children. This confuses me. The executive order is going to fight gay homelessness. I don't know. Why don't we just fight homelessness as a whole? Why do we have to segment things off? That's just my question. I don't understand what that has to do with anything. But then it says, encourage inclusive learning environments for LGBTQ children. Which is, I'm sure you have thoughts about that. Let me know what you think about that in the comments section, but we don't need to get mired down in that. The order also establishes new rules to discourage conversion therapy. This is where this gets interesting, and I feel like I have some pretty decent insight on this. Though efforts to enforce bans on it in places where state law allows the practice will rely on legal challenges from outside the White House. Discouraging quote-unquote conversion therapy. That is not very well defined. When you talk about quote-unquote conversion therapy, a lot of people think back to like the 50s and 60s and like electroshock therapy to convert people. Nowadays, in the modern therapist mental health world, anything that isn't affirming is considered quote-unquote conversion therapy. The directive for a lot of your therapists, and believe me, I've got a pretty solid insight into this, is that you're not allowed to question what the kid, and then we're talking about kids specifically here, what the child thinks. You're only allowed to affirm them in their transition to whatever it is that they want to be, which is insane. You don't get to say, do you actually think that? Or maybe we can work through some other things that may be pushing this particular belief upon you. No, the idea in the mental health world, at least in California and in a lot of your super lefty states, is that if you're not affirming the decision of a child, which parents don't even affirm all of the decisions of the child, then you're participating in quote-unquote conversion therapy, according to a lot of your big lefty outlets. So when Joe Biden issues an executive order to ban conversion therapy, what that means in literal practice, to my knowledge, and maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, feel free to comment. I have no problem with being corrected. But the way I see it is that if you question at all what the kid is telling you and don't affirm them, that is considered conversion therapy, and Joe Biden is trying to outlaw and ban that with this executive order. Excuse me. The order further directs health officials to spell out that federally funded programs cannot be used to fund conversion therapy, questioning the decisions of a child. You can't fund anybody questioning any decision of any child. Okay. And it seems to ease barriers to healthcare and certain types of treatment for the LGBTQ community, including gender-affirming surgery. Holy cow. So, essentially what Joe Biden is doing is signing an executive order to allow kids to make life-altering surgical decisions. Do you remember at the beginning of Joe Biden running for presidency, the reason everybody wanted, not everybody, but clearly not everybody, but a reason a bunch of the lefties were like, oh, at least he's not Trump. He's kind of center or middle of the road. This is as far left as it gets. So good luck with making that middle of the road centrist argument. Literally, the polling would show that most Americans don't agree with this by a lot. We'll leave that there because I'm sure this is not any new information for you, but I wanted to bring up this kind of interesting point. Joe Biden went on Jimmy Kimmel's show, late night comedian, last week. He did so to check a box because it had been like 120 days since he'd had a full sit-down interview. And apparently Jimmy Kimmel counts as a full sit-down interview. Before that, his interview, the most recent interview was with Lester Holt at the Super Bowl, which is like the most not dense venue to do an interview with the president. And now it's Jimmy Kimmel. So those are the two latest presidential sit-down interviews. Joe Biden has given, I think, a fourth of what Barack Obama gave and like half of what Trump was doing. Sorry, not even half. A fourth of what Trump was doing and like an eighth of what Obama was doing. That's beside the point. In that interview with Jimmy Kimmel, Joe Biden said, and I should have pulled the clip, well, I don't want to be a dictatorial executive order signer like Donald Trump was. This would put him This particular executive order would put Joe Biden 3 executive orders behind Donald Trump as the president in total. But here's the thing. I don't know if you remember this, but Donald Trump served 4 years as the president. Joe Biden is in month 18. And now he's only 3 executive orders behind Donald Trump, which would mean he will certainly surpass the guy who he called a dictator, quasi-dictator. He said he doesn't want to executive order from the White House. He said he's not going to be like that, except for he's going to pass Donald Trump in that metric. Interesting to say the least. I want to get to this. This is actually, there's a couple facets to this story here that has been interesting. Record numbers of illegals are coming into the United States. That's no question. But so last time we were reporting this, the numbers were between like 150,000 a month to 175,000 a month. You're not actually going to believe what it is now. It's way higher than that. And that was record highs. It is substantially higher than that. I just want to say really quick, if you haven't already, would love to click the little like button and the little share button on the bottom here, especially if you're watching on Facebook. Really, really helps us out, get to more people, which helps us stay on the air, continuing what we're doing. And also gets to show off these hilarious t-shirts, the Joe Biden catchphrase t-shirt, which you can get at my Instagram shop. But back to this, record numbers of illegals coming into the United States, no sign of slowing down. This is from the Washington Examiner. The number of migrants encountered attempting to enter the United States rose in May, surpassing all previous records of the past century, an indication of the scale of illegal immigration crisis at the border. U.S. Borders officials intercepted not 150,000, not 175,000, not 250,000. Sorry, not 200,000. Intercepted 239,416 illegal immigrants attempting to enter into the country illegally last month. The 4th consecutive monthly rise, according to U.S. Customs and Border Patrol. In the first 16 months of President Joe Biden's term in office, law enforcement officials at the southern borders have stopped non-citizens attempting to cross into the U.S. without permission. This is an unreal number. 2.9 million times in the 16 months President Biden has been in office, including migrants detained, denied admission at ports of entry, the CBP data shows. Wow. So there's that. I also wanted to get to this. That's what the story is. I wanted to get to this. Apparently, Joe Biden is considering punishing the Border Patrol officers that were whipping. They weren't whipping. That was entirely debunked. Whipping migrants as they came in, months after the story has dwindled. I wanted to play this video from last year, 2021, where the video is shown and Jen Psaki, the former White House press secretary, was talking about the quote-unquote whips that were happening at the border, that weren't actually happening.
The White House condemned U.S. Border Patrol agents on Monday who were seen using a whip-like cord to block Haitian migrants carrying supplies into the U.S. from Mexico. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said she had seen some of the footage, calling it unacceptable.
We just saw this footage. It's horrible to watch. I just have to get more information on it. I can't imagine what the scenario is where that would be appropriate. I'm certainly not suggesting that, but we've just seen the footage earlier this morning.
Reuters drone footage captured hundreds of mostly Haitian migrants crossing back and forth between Ciudad Acuña in Mexico and the sprawling camp across the border in Del Rio, Texas, to buy food and water that was short in supply on the U.S. side.
Okay, so we saw that last year. That was a clip from last year. And then it turned out to be entirely false. The Border Patrol officers were not whipping anybody, and I'm pretty sure the New York Times and the Washington Post, which are kind of the benchmarks for me in terms of if they say it and it's a lefty argument, if they're debunking it, it's not real. but I don't actually remember specifically. But Fox News reported on Tuesday that DHS is preparing to discipline multiple horseback patrol agents involved in the incident of Haitian migrants, illegal immigrants, at the U.S.-Mexico border back in September, where some Democrats and immigration advocates incorrectly believed they saw agents whipping Haitian migrants. The federal source told Fox News announcements on the matter is expected to become within the coming days. The agents are expected to be disciplined with administrative violations rather than criminal conduct. Yada, 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 it goes on. I'm through being surprised, one agent told Fox News, along with a countdown until the agent's retirement date. Another told Fox News that he knew the number of agents were planning on shifting to retirement as a result of the administration's actions. Another described it as effing BS. Funky bullspit. Maybe that's what they were saying. It blocked out the word, so I can't really tell what it is. But that's an interesting story. The Biden administration looking to discipline those people is a little freaking ridiculous. Let me see. Jeez. We still got a bunch to get to. So I want to get to this. This is a not light fare. Two officers in El Monte, California. Let me start that over. This is, it's been a morning. Two officers in El Monte, California were killed earlier this week in a shootout responding to a domestic violence call. Now, while that tragedy is as terrible as it can get, I wanted to bring some light to what's going on in Los Angeles County. El Monte is a city in LA County in which, if you haven't heard about the crazy Soros-funded DAs, that DA in LA County is involved heavily in this story. Again, I think this is a bigger, broader national story that needs to be looked at by a national audience. I know it seems possibly hyper-local, but there are Soros-funded DAs all over the place. San Francisco got rid of theirs last week in the recall. And if you're not familiar at all with this, the brief summary is George Soros and a bunch of super lefties have been funding not big governor races. They're still doing that. Not Senate races, not congressional races, but district attorney races in your big blue cities. So that the district attorneys that are prosecuting or not prosecuting criminals are as woke as they could possibly get. And so the reason why I wanted to bring up this story, of course it's tragic, and of course it's a terrible situation, and you feel terribly for the families of these two officers that were killed. But there's more involved with the DA and the person that shot these two officers. Corporal Michael Paredes, 42, and Officer Joseph Santana were killed Tuesday while responding to a reported stabbing at an El Monte motel. Both leave behind families in mourning, which, again, is terrible. This, however, is from Bill Malugin of Fox News, calling out the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office. Per sources, this is, again, Bill Malugin, Fox News. Per sources, the gang member who fatally shot two El Monte PD officers last night was on probation for felon with a firearm after he received a bare minimum sentence in a plea deal under LA District Attorney George Gascon last year, despite having a previous strike on his record. Law enforcement sources tell me that Justin Williams Flores had a previous strike conviction in 2011 for a charge with a number that I don't know what that is, but he still received the absolute bare minimum sentence for his felon possession of a gun charge late last year, in accordance with Gascon's policies. 2 years probation. Basically, this guy who killed these two officers had a strike on his criminal record and was in felony possession of a firearm and received 2 years probation. The bare minimum, not including any of the strikes that he's already had. Let me see. Bill Melugin goes on to say the two fallen officers have now been identified. Sources in the LADA's office tell me that if the case had been prosecuted without Gascon, the woke DA of Los Angeles' policies, in February of 2021, Flores would likely have been behind bars on a 2.5 to 3 year minimum sentence. Instead, he was out on probation. LADA sources tell Bill Melugin that even though Flores had a strike on his record, it was not considered during his gun case in February 2021, in accordance with Gascon's new policies of not prosecuting California's three-strike law. A trial court and a California appellate court have now both ruled Gascon's policy was illegal. The bottom line here is you have a Soros-funded DA in Los Angeles, California, this guy named George Gascon, who is refusing to prosecute crime. I don't want to say that's the bigger story here, because it's not, and the loss of police officer life is a terrible thing. But the rest of the country needs to be aware that this stuff is happening at the DA level. We get caught up so often with our presidential politics and our congressional politics and Senate races and governors and all of that sort of stuff. Often people forget that DA and municipal localities have huge impacts on people's everyday life. In this situation, Bill Melugin is reporting that sources inside Gascon's DA's office, people that work for the DA, said, yeah, if he didn't institute these policies, this guy would have been behind bars for 2.5 to 3 years. Rightfully so, committing multiple felonies. I don't know what to do with this other than make sure you're paying attention to your local DA races, your local sheriff's races, and really all of the local races going on. Because if you don't, people like this get into office and they let criminals out on the street, and we end up being faced with these terrible tragedies. There's more here that we can get to, but So the guy was shot and killed too, by the way. The murderer was shot and killed by police officers. Bill Melugin goes on to say, Gascon's policies also suggest his office may pay for the funeral for the cop killer. When he took office, Gascon issued a policy stating that his office would pay for funeral expenses of people killed by police, regardless of the state of the investigation or charging decision. So since this guy was killed by police, even though he had just killed 2 police officers, it's possible that the DA's office may pay for his funeral expenses. Yeah. I know it sounds like a local story. I understand that, and I understand this is a national show and we have an audience watching everywhere, but you need to watch out for your DAs. If they don't prosecute crime, I don't know what you do. You know what? We're going to save the Taiwan thing for tomorrow. I don't feel like talking about it right now. So that's going to do it for us. That Taiwan thing is interesting. Yeah. That's going to do it for us. Amy says Gascon is scum. Yeah. This dude is, if you don't know anything about this story, so San Francisco just got rid of one of their super woke DAs. And Gascon, I think, you know what? The numbers actually came in. So LA is trying to recall this guy that we just did that whole long piece about. So I think they got like 570,000 signatures, and I think they need 550,000. They have like barely over the threshold to recall him. They need to get that by July 14th, I believe. So if you live in the LA County area, make sure you sign that petition to get this guy recalled, because not prosecuting crime is horribly dangerous to the society, and we don't want him to be setting examples. Scott says time for another recall. Yeah, absolutely. It's underway. And again, if you live in LA County or know anybody in LA County, make sure they sign that recall petition to get this guy out of office. some people deem to be questionable about with the recall. It's not going to happen. No, it actually might. Dang it, I hate to go on this just rambling thing. So the super woke DA in San Francisco, the wokest city in America, I think, recalled and removed their DA. So it is possible even in places like California. I'm seeing some comments saying there's no way that's possible. It's not going to happen. Democrats don't get recalled. So, yeah. I'll stop rambling. Thanks so much for tuning in. Appreciate you watching each and every morning. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media accounts. Just type in Jobob. You can find me on Instagram, usually lighter fare on these social media accounts. And it's kind of a down story. So appreciate you tuning in, watching. Give me a follow there. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Same time, same place. We'll bring that China invading Taiwan story tomorrow, because I think that's really, really interesting and needs to be talked about and is not going to be talked about until it's too late. So we'll bring that to you tomorrow. Until then, we'll see you same time, same place. God bless America.